All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into a world of magical realism. We're tackling Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude, a book, well, a book people call a cornerstone of Latin American literature.
Swordstone, absolutely.
And you guys sent in this awesome YouTube video, a summary and analysis, so we're going to use that to really unpack it all. The juicy themes, the characters you can't forget, and of course, that magical realism Marquez is so famous for.
It's a masterpiece. 100 Years of Solitude is like this incredible tapestry woven from myth and history and all those deep human emotions. It follows the Buendia family and, get this, over 7 generations.
7 generations, wow.
All happening within this fascinating but isolated town called Macondo.
Okay, so 7 generations all in the same town. I mean, come on, that's got to be a recipe for some serious family drama.
Well, there's drama, definitely.
And what really struck me? It's the names. They repeat through the generations, right? Like, is there something more to that? I mean, beyond just, keeping the family tree straight.
It's more than just quirky family tradition.
Yeah, what's the deal with that?
It reinforces this the core theme of the book, the cyclical nature of history, and the idea that the Buendia family is trapped by fate. It's like they're destined to just relive the triumphs and tragedies of their ancestors.
It's like each generation is being haunted by the ghosts of the past.
Exactly.
Almost like they're, pre-programmed to make the same mistakes over and over again.
And they're puppets, yeah. Dancing to a tune written generations ago.
That's a little unsettling, but definitely thought-provoking.
It makes you think, right? About your own life, your own patterns. Do we really have free will, or are we just playing out some script?
Whoa. Okay, speaking of unsettling, this whole story starts with Jose Arcadio Buendia and Ursula Iguaran, right? And they run away from their hometown because they're terrified of having a baby with a pig's tail. A pig's tail? What is Marquez trying to say with that? This mythical origin story.
That image is so powerful, right? A monstrous child.
Yeah.
It sets the tone. We're in a world of magical realism right from the start.
Oh, okay, I get it.
But it also highlights the weight of history, of ancestry, their fear.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from generations of incest in their family. So they flee, they establish Macondo, hoping for a fresh start.
But they can't outrun their past, huh?
Exactly. They carry that burden with them.
It's like, are they running from a curse or toward one?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
So we've got this town, this Macondo. It's more than just a setting, though, right?
More than just a setting, definitely.
And it makes it so special.
Well, Macondo, it represents both the promise and the peril of isolation. It's a microcosm of Latin America, forging its own destiny. But it's also cut off from the world, haunted by secrets. And ultimately, it's vulnerable to forces outside its control.
So Macondo is kind of like its own character then, huh?
You could say that.
Okay. I can already see how that sets the stage for some intense stuff. And maybe some magical happenings, too. Oh, and speaking of magical, we've got Melquiades, the gypsy, who just, waltzes into town and changes everything.
Melquiades. He's more than just a colorful character, though. He's a symbol.
Of what?
The unknown. He's a catalyst for change.
Mm.
And he's also a conduit for all that magical realism that just, flows through the novel. He brings new inventions, a sense of wonder.
But also a sense of disruption, right?
Definitely. And foreshadowing, hinting at the upheavals to come.
Oh, yeah. And he dies and comes back to life multiple times.
Talk about a dramatic entrance and exit strategy.
So what's with the recurring resurrection?
On the surface, it's fantastical.
Yeah.
Bizarre, even.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to this idea of resilience,
Yeah.
The cycle of life and death,
Mm.
and blurring the lines between reality and myth,
It reminds me of how some cultures view death not an ending, but a transition.
Exactly.
So Marquez is basically saying anything's possible in this world.
Anything.
Even cheating death.
Even cheating death.
But what I don't get is, how do the characters react to all this? Do they even blink? Is this normal for them?
That's a great observation. It's all about the narrator's tone.
Mm.
He's so matter-of-fact when he's describing these unbelievable events.
Uh-huh.
It creates this feeling of normalcy, like levitation or ghosts. That's just another Tuesday in Macondo.
So that's how he pulls us in, huh? Makes us accept the impossible.
He makes you question what's real in your own life.
It's like that line from the video, where Marquez said he wanted to depict the world the way his grandmother described it to him as a child.
Exactly. It's that childlike wonder accepting the extraordinary that makes his magical realism so powerful. And this is where we start to see how he blends the personal and the political, the fantastical and the historical, to create this this rich tapestry that we call 100 Years of Solitude.
Okay, so we've got this isolated town steeped in secrets and history, a family that seems cursed to repeat the past, and a magical gypsy who laughs in the face of death. What kind of characters and events unfold in this crazy world?
Oh, get ready to be swept away.
Yeah.
We have Colonel Aureliano Buendia, a Revolutionary War hero, completely consumed by his ideals.
Mm.
Then there's Amaranta, his sister. Her unrequited love leads her down this path of bitterness and solitude. And then we have Rebecca, the adopted daughter, and she brings plagues.
Plagues? Like what?
Plagues of insomnia and forgetfulness.
Oh, wow.
Really disrupts the already chaotic world of Macondo.
Okay, hold on. So we've got wars, plagues, forbidden love, and ghosts. Sounds like this family has seen it all. But how do their stories connect to those big themes we've been talking about?
Each character embodies those themes in their own way. Colonel Aureliano Buendia, for example. He's a war hero, right? But he becomes a symbol of solitude. He withdraws from the world after seeing all the horrors of conflict.
So even the most powerful characters are still trapped by those cycles of history and fate.
Exactly. And then you have Amaranta, her bitterness, her isolation. It shows how destructive unrequited love can be, how trauma can ripple through generations. And Rebecca, with the plagues she brings, she represents the disruptions that can upend everything, kind of like when the banana company arrives later in the story.
It's like their individual struggles are a reflection of what's happening to Macondo as a whole. Like Marquez is saying, even in a world of magic, we're all connected by these universal experiences. Love, loss, and trying to find meaning in it all.
Absolutely. Those connections are key. This isn't just a bunch of fantastical tales strung together. It's a deeply human story about family, the weight of history, and searching for connection in a world that often feels isolating.
Okay, I'm already hooked, but hold on a sec. What about those parchments left by Melquiades? What's the deal with those?
The parchments. They're crucial. They add another layer to this whole idea of fate and cyclical history. They contain a prophecy. It foretells the entire Buendia family's fate.
The whole thing?
The whole thing. But here's the catch. They can only be deciphered after 100 years.
Whoa. So their destiny is like already written down. That's crazy.
It is. It makes you wonder, do they have any free will at all? Or are they just playing out this pre-written script?
That's a question for the ages. All right, I'm on the edge of my seat. But before we get to the ending and find out if that prophecy comes true, let's talk about magical realism. It's obviously a huge part of the book, but I want to know, what purpose does it serve?
We've touched on how it creates wonder, how it challenges our perceptions of reality, but it's more than that. The magical realism, it's also a way for Marquez to explore the complexities of Latin American history and culture.
Okay, so it's not just about levitating objects and people coming back from the dead.
It's about representing a specific cultural perspective, a worldview where those boundaries between reality and fantasy are much more fluid.
So it's deliberate. He's using magic to make a point.
Exactly. He's capturing the essence of a culture where myth and history are intertwined, where the impossible feels entirely plausible.
It's like he's saying, hey, open your mind and see the world in a new way.
Exactly.
Wow. My mind is blown. I can't wait to dig deeper into all this, see how it plays out through the characters and events.
We've only just scratched the surface, but hopefully this first dive has given you a taste of what awaits you in 100 Years of Solitude.
It definitely has. Okay, everyone, we're just getting started. All right, so we're back and ready to go even deeper into this magical world of 100 Years of Solitude. Last time we talked about cyclical history, fate, and how powerful Marquez's magical realism is. But there's one theme that keeps popping up.
Solitude.
Yes, solitude. It's right there in the title. And we talked about how it affects the Buendia family, but how does it play out in the novel as a whole?
Well, it's everywhere, isn't it? Like a shadow hanging over everything in Macondo.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just being physically isolated, though that's definitely part of it.
Right.
It's more like this deep feeling of disconnect.
Okay.
It affects the characters, the relationships, even their connection to time and history.
So even though they're surrounded by family in this bustling town, they still feel alone?
Yeah, it's a paradox, right?
It is.
It's about the human condition, I think. You can be surrounded by people, but still feel completely alone.
That's a heavy thought.
Think about Colonel Aureliano Buendia. He's a war hero, right? People follow him, admire him, but he chooses to shut himself away in his workshop, making those tiny goldfishes.
I remember that from the video. It's such a sad image.
It is, isn't it?
This powerful figure reduced to these little tasks. It's like he's trying to find some peace, but just ends up even more isolated.
Yeah, his solitude comes from the disillusionment of war, the weight of his actions. He feels disconnected from the world he helped create.
It's like he can't escape the consequences.
And you see it in other characters too, like Amaranta. She builds walls around herself, rejecting any connection. She chooses bitterness instead.
Because of her unrequited love, right?
Exactly. And even Ursula, she tries so hard to hold the family together. But she has moments of deep solitude too as she watches her family fall apart, her memories fading away.
It's almost like they're all searching for something.
A connection.
Yeah, a connection, a purpose, but something always holds them back.
Right.
Is it their own choices? Or the legacy of their past? Or is it just part of being human?
It's a big question. Marquez doesn't give us easy answers. He shows us these flawed characters struggling. And he makes us think about our own lives. What makes us feel isolated? Is it us or is it the world around us?
It makes me think about, technology. It connects us in so many ways, but it can also make us feel lonelier. We can be surrounded by hundreds of faces online and still feel empty.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Maybe Marquez was onto something, even decades ago. Maybe that longing for belonging, for meaning, it's just a part of us.
I think that's why this book still resonates with people today. It speaks to those deep emotions, those struggles we all face.
Definitely. It reminds us that literature can connect us, help us understand each other better, even across different cultures and generations.
Now, I'm curious about the history. We keep saying Macondo is a microcosm of Latin America, but how do those specific historical events in the book, affect the characters and their sense of solitude?
Well, those events aren't just background, they're crucial. They shape the characters' lives and their destinies.
Okay, so give me an example.
Take the Civil War. It shows how violence just keeps repeating itself, how ideology can tear people apart.
Right.
And it leaves scars, literal and emotional, on characters like Colonel Aureliano Buendia.
So it pushes him further into isolation.
Yeah. And then there's the banana company coming in, disrupting everything, promising progress but bringing exploitation.
Right.
And that massacre of the workers, that's a turning point.
It really is.
It exposes the dark side of progress.
Yeah, like those dreams of a better future turning into a nightmare.
It's a powerful moment.
Do you think that event makes the people of Macondo feel even more isolated, like betrayed by the outside world?
I think so. Historical trauma can definitely do that. It can shatter trust, divide communities, leave people feeling powerless.
Like they've lost hope.
Exactly. And it mirrors the personal traumas the characters experience, like their struggles are tied to these larger forces.
So it's this mix of the personal and political, the magical and historical that makes the novel so complex.
It's what makes it so fascinating.
And within all that, solitude emerges as this connecting thread, right? It links the characters across generations and shows how hard it is to connect with others in a world filled with conflict and change and the burden of the past.
Exactly. And Marquez does it with such beautiful language, such vivid descriptions. He makes these abstract concepts feel real.
You don't just read about solitude, you feel it.
That's the power of his writing.
It's the power of great literature. It can take these complex ideas and make them visceral, like we're right there with the characters.
We feel what they feel.
Okay, so we've talked about solitude, history, and Marquez's incredible writing. But what about the magical realism? I want to get into some specific examples of how he uses it.
Oh, there are so many.
Yeah, there are. Give me a good one.
How about Remedios the Beauty, ascending to heaven?
Wait, she flies up to heaven.
While folding laundry.
While folding laundry. Okay, what does that mean?
On one level, it's playful. It reminds us that this is Macondo. Anything is possible. But it also represents transcendence, escaping the limits of our world.
Okay.
Remedios, she's so beautiful and innocent, she doesn't belong in this world that's becoming so corrupt.
Right.
Her ascension is like a liberation, a release from all the burdens of the world.
I see. So it's not just random magic, it's connected to her character and the theme.
Exactly. It's also a way for Marquez to say something about the role of women. Remedios is often underestimated.
Because she's so beautiful, people don't see her inner strength.
Right, but her ascension, it's like she breaks free from all the expectations placed on her. It's a powerful image.
It's like he's saying that even in a world that tries to control women, they can still find their own way, even if it means literally flying away.
Exactly. And then there are the yellow butterflies. Do you remember those?
Yeah, the video said they symbolize love and hope, but also that happiness doesn't last forever.
Right. They're beautiful, magical even, especially when they're following Mauricio Babylonia. It shows how passionate his love is for Mime, one of the Buendia daughters,
I remember that.
but it also foreshadows what's going to happen to their relationship.
It doesn't end well.
No. Butterflies are so fragile, They don't live very long, just like their love.
It's like Marquez is saying, even the most beautiful things are delicate. They can be destroyed.
Exactly. But it's not just about romantic love, those butterflies. They can also represent hope itself, those brief moments of joy and wonder in a world full of sadness.
So the magical realism isn't just there to be fancy. It's really part of how he tells the story.
It deepens the themes, adds layers of meaning, and makes us see the world differently.
It's about embracing the mystery, the possibility that magic can exist, even in the darkest times.
Exactly. Marquez makes us question what's real, what's possible. He makes us think about the power of stories, about history, about finding meaning when everything feels chaotic.
I'm starting to get why this book is considered such a masterpiece. It's more than a story, it's an experience. It's a journey into a world that's both familiar and strange.
It's a journey you won't forget.
Okay, everyone, we're not done yet. There's still more to discover. All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into 100 Years of Solitude. We've talked about a lot: cyclical history, solitude, the power of Marquez's magical realism, and how everything's so interconnected. But now we're at the end of the book, so how does it all come together? What about the ending? What's it all about?
The ending of 100 Years of Solitude. It's breathtaking and heartbreaking. It brings together everything we've been discussing, the weight of history, the destructive power of solitude, those cyclical patterns that just seem to rule the Buendia family.
The video mentioned the destruction of Macondo, right? And that prophecy from Melchiades' parchments coming true. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, the idea that their fate was set from the beginning. What does it all mean?
It's an ending that really makes you think,
Yeah.
There are so many ways to interpret it. On one hand, it really emphasizes this idea of fate, Like, no matter what the Buendias do, their destiny is already determined.
So all those generations, all their struggles, their choices, none of it mattered. They couldn't change anything. That's kind of depressing.
I know what you mean. It can feel that way, Especially if you only focus on the fact that they're doomed. But there's something else to think about. Remember that line we talked about earlier? The one about how races condemned to 100 years of solitude don't get a second chance.
Yeah, it's a haunting line. It makes it sound like the Buendia family is cursed in this very specific way.
Right. And that's where I see a glimmer of hope, a slightly different way of looking at things. By calling their solitude a unique experience, Marquez takes their story beyond just being a tragedy. He's implying that their struggles, even though they end in destruction, are important. Like maybe they're a warning for the rest of us.
So it's not just about their downfall, but about what we can learn from it.
Exactly. I think that's what Marquez wants us to consider. Maybe it's a cautionary tale about what happens when we isolate ourselves, when we keep making the same mistakes, when we fail to see how connected we all are.
It's a really relevant message, especially these days when we're all so aware of how our choices affect each other and the whole world.
Absolutely. The destruction of Macondo, even though it's a fictional place, it could be a metaphor for what might happen to us if we don't learn from the Buendia's mistakes.
So even though the ending is sad, it's also like a call to action. It's a reminder that we can break those cycles. We can choose to be connected instead of isolated. We can create a better future.
Exactly. And that's where the power of stories comes in. By connecting with these characters, by feeling what they feel, we learn something about ourselves, about what it means to be human. And hopefully, it makes us want to be more responsible, more aware of how our actions impact the world.
This conversation has really changed how I see this book. I'm realizing that 100 Years of Solitude is more than just a story. It's like a mirror reflecting us, our history, what we could become.
That's what makes great literature so special. It transcends time and place. It speaks to all of us.
We've covered so much, and I feel like I understand this novel so much better now. But as we wrap up, I've got one last question. What makes 100 Years of Solitude so enduring, so influential? I mean, why do people still love this book so much, decades after it was published?
That's a great question. I think there are a few reasons. First, Marquez's writing is just phenomenal. He creates this world that's so vibrant, so evocative. His language is beautiful, sensual. It pulls you in.
Yeah, we talked about how he makes the magical seem real, how he brings you right into Macondo with his descriptions.
Right. Second, the themes of the novel are universal. Love, loss, family, searching for meaning. These are things we all experience no matter where we're from.
And that idea of solitude, of struggling to connect, that resonates with people now more than ever.
Absolutely. Third, The way Marquez blends history, myth, and magical realism, it's just captivating. He makes you question what's real, makes you see the world in a new way.
And that mix of genres, it feels very modern.
Exactly. And lastly, I think the message of hope in the novel, even though it's a sad story, it's something that people connect with. It reminds us that even when things are tough, we can still make a difference. We can still connect with each other. We can break free from the past.
It's a powerful message and an inspiring way to end our conversation. I'm definitely going to read 100 Years of Solitude now.
I highly recommend it. It's a journey you won't regret. It's a story that will stay with you.
Well said. And that wraps up our deep dive into 100 Years of Solitude. Thanks for listening, everyone, and join us next time as we explore another fascinating piece of literature.